wanting to make a change, wanting to eat better, eat healthier, maybe start a workout routine, maybe drink less alcohol, things like that. And we're like all gung ho. And then maybe we do it for a little while, or maybe we just never are able to get started. And we realize a few weeks down the road that actually I've not really made a change. Nothing's really different here. And we know we're all smart on the Daily Huddle and we know what to do. So we're here to dig into what stands in the way of us actually making those changes and reaching our health goals. Right, Tara?
That's right. That's what we're here to talk about. Do you have a theory or shall I dig in?
Well, I have several theories actually.
Okay.
Well, I think that the first thing I'm going to say them briefly, and then I want to hear what you have to say because I think there's some really good conversation to have here. But I would venture to say, and I would actually put money on this, that I think the number one thing that stands in the way of us reaching our goals is our brain, is our mind. And that includes the habits that we have, because it can be really hard to break habits and that our brain patterns, and we continue to do the same things that we've done. And you've even talked about this, about the chemicals that run in our brain and then what we're after, and if we're after that dopamine, it feels really great at the beginning and, oh, I've lost some weight and that's awesome. But then that goes away and then we just slip right back into our ways. So it's a general, like a really generalized answer, I guess, to say the brain, but it's how our brain works and how we operate. And then how do we make a real shift to really see change in our lives? So
Yeah.
anyway, I have more to say about that, but I want to hear what your answer is. What do you
Yeah. Well,
think?
I love that you went there because what saddens me about um seeing humans struggle with health goals is the shame around it. Like I think that people
Yeah.
look at it. I'm gonna say one thing real quick. Y'all, this just couldn't be helped. I'm in the car. So Catherine, will you just give me a signal if all of a sudden you can't hear me because I'm insecure about it.
Yes,
So just like
absolutely. And I'll take over
do
for you. We'll be fine.
okay.
Thanks for
Okay.
saying that.
Um uh so that's the big thing that if there was one takeaway today, what I would love for it to be is a little bit of a better understanding of what goes on in our brain so that we can take the shame piece out of it. I don't see the inability to achieve health goals or stay on track or any of that other crap as just a simple matter of self-discipline. So I'd love to explore that. Um, but I do want to also, one other precursor is I just want to make it super clear that we didn't pop on here to think we have some nugget or answer. I feel like we, especially as an American society, we're all in this health journey together. And what excites me about it is there's constant research, there's constant new opportunities, new ways to elevate our health and learn and grow. So I see it truly as, I mean, not to use an overstated word, but it's a true journey of
Hmm.
learning. And our bodies change as we age, we have
Hmm.
different needs. So, yeah, I want to dig into the chemicals of what goes on in our brain and maybe how the awareness of those can help us not necessarily, I don't even like the word stay on track, but make other choices that help us not to feel deprived. So I'll give an early example in my lifetime, which is kind of, it wasn't funny at the time, but it's kind of funny now. So many of you know that I used to smoke cigarettes. And I wasn't one of those cigarette smokers that had one or two here or there. I was good at it.
You
I was,
excelled at cigarette
yeah,
smoking.
yes, I was committed. I was about a pack a day. I spent
Whew.
a lot of hours in my car. And the first time I tried to quit, I was out on a golf course with clients and they were like, where are your cigarettes? I'm like, I quit. And I said, but I'm worried about it. It's making me gain weight. And this guy said, yeah, I can tell.
Nope,
Um, how
not the
long
right
do you
thing to
think,
say.
how long do you think it took me to start smoking
I mean,
again?
did you make it off the golf course before you started smoking a cigarette?
Now looking back on it, I know why I gained weight. I mean, it's kind of a common thing when people quit smoking. There's not a lot of smokers anymore, really, but I exchanged my cigarettes for brown sugar and cinnamon Pop Tarts.
Okay. They do
That'll
have
pack
more
the
calories than cigarettes.
that'll pack the pounds on. And I was like, I don't even need my cigarettes. And
But
but
tell
I
us
shared it.
why, because this is always fascinating to me when you
Mhm.
actually tell us, because I do want to say, like, like food's a great example. Like I've struggled with that throughout my life, and it's like I'll have a craving, and it'll feel like I have to have that. So explain why you didn't even need the cigarettes, which is they're highly addictive when you had the brown sugar and cinnamon Pop Tarts.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, and it wasn't like it was super easy, but I was, I can do this. But I
Mhm.
always had those Pop Tarts around. Um, what a dummy. Anyway, what I've learned today is that I was simply trading one hit of dopamine for another. I mean, it is truly that simple. Um, but to take it a little bit deeper is there's all kinds of ways to get dopamine and satisfy what we're really craving. Um, and a bite of sugar is a very fast way to do it. So it
Mhm.
travels to the brain very quickly. It triggers excess reward and it gives us a sense of satisfaction. But the problem with it is if we're just going after dopamine to manage our health, no matter what we are using to give us dopamine, the brain needs more and more of it to achieve that same level of high. So, nicotine is probably not the best example because it's highly addictive. But if we are trying to, um,
How
eat
about get
whole
off social
grains,
media?
yeah, 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 that's a great example. Um, that's another way to get dopamine. So I feel like the 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 quick way to maybe change some habits is to find healthier means of dopamine. But there's something that we can enrich our lives with that will help us not to crave dopamine. So I want to talk about that too. But how do you see this addiction to dopamine affecting your health goals and people that you're close to?
Yeah, well, I think, I love watching shows on Netflix and I like watching movies. One of the things that I've noticed is it's hard to find a movie nowadays. There are
Hmm.
all of these limited series. And that really got me wondering, like, if you could click on there, I'm like, oh, it's a movie. And no, it's a limited series, which I think speaks to at least the American culture and like our attention span. So how does it impact me is that like it takes real effort if I even go on social media to resist getting pulled into. I mean, it is all the way that it is because they know how our brain works. And so it's catering to my brain. If I'm wanting to zone out and not be intentional about what I'm going to consume on social media or on the internet, could just be on websites, then I'm going to get pulled into that because that's how my brain operates.
Hmm.
And so I
Yeah.
have to be really intentional. So like late at night, I'm tired. If I pull up my phone, guess what? I'm one after the other because my brain is just like boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
So, and I think it's harder to hold a longer goal. So everything feels like it's catering to that shorter attention span. So to put social media down, to put my phone down for an extended period of time,
Hmm.
and go find things to do for an hour or 2 hours. um, so anyway, I think that's part of it is that our culture right now is really geared towards giving us dopamine hits.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The marketing companies, um, I've shared this before, but the tobacco companies, the ones who are the master at creating addicts, they bought the big brand food companies back in the 1980s and they
Hmm.
applied their marketing strategies to all the junk food that we have today.
Yeah.
What is helpful to me though in thinking about this is, and you've heard me talk about this, I coined this phrase called pleasure stacking. And today, it's not just that we're going to watch a television show or we're going to have a cigarette or have a brownie. There's so much access to quick hits of pleasure that we're like, if I sit down to watch TV, I want something in my hands. I
Hmm.
want a glass of wine or a cup of tea and maybe a snack. That's my like, dopamine joy land. But those habits can be extremely addictive. So what I like to the way I like to look at it, Catherine, is not just to tell myself, okay, stop doing that. Don't have a glass of wine. I like to replace it with something healthy.
Yeah.
So I'll still maybe watch the show, but I think I'm just gonna I love Fiji water. So I've been treating myself to that kind of water, which sounds weird. I mean, water's water, but I just love that water. So it's kind of expensive, but you know what? It's a treat and I know it's good for my body, it's good for my skin, it gives me something to do with my hands. And once I sit down and start just sipping on that water and enjoying a show, I don't miss maybe something that I might have been doing that was bad for my health. And it helps me. That triggers something else in the brain. When we do something that makes us feel proud of our habits, that gives us a little bit of serotonin, and that encouragement can linger on.
Right. Well, I think that's the really important part because we've talked a lot about what stops us, what helps us not to reach our goals. And so if we flip the script and say, okay, well, how could we reach our goals?
Hmm.
For me, that's one of the things because I've noticed the stop start where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start a new workout routine. But especially knowing you and everything that you've taught me, I know that that'll just die off. Like I can't count on willpower alone. And so what I like to do is think about what is the end goal that I really want and connect to that feeling. Like, let's say it's a workout routine. I'm like, I want to have toned arms or I want to feel slim and strong. And I keep
Hmm.
connecting to that feeling so that at 5:30 in the morning when I wake up and I really don't want to pick up a weight, I connect to that feeling. And then it's like, oh, okay. I mean, is it easy? No, not always. But then I'm much more likely to do it because
Hmm.
I'm connecting to something that I really want. It's got passion, it's got purpose, it's got deeper meaning, so I don't have,
I
there's
love
really,
that.
yeah, I mean, there's really no purpose in sitting down to a Netflix show for me, at least what I watch, you know. But I think you're right because I can sense if that's serotonin going off in my brain, it's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's what I want. And then that keeps me going. So I think
Hmm.
for me, it heavily relies on intention.
Mm. You know what I would love to do is to shift this mindset into something a little bit more specific, and that's food.
Hmm.
Because I've studied health. We all have probably, and we uncover. It's almost like you can uncover anything, and I've uncovered a few things about food for me personally that I would love to share. Not again, not to say that we have any special answers, but I've found some ways to not have to feel like I'm constantly managing my health. So I wonder if you, before I dig into me and what I've uncovered, like what have you uncovered about food to help you have peace around it or make better choices? Because to me, I mean, that's how we fuel our body. So we would be remiss if we didn't talk about food specifically, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, and I think I shared this before, but I've struggled with an eating disorder, a pretty severe one when I was younger, and was actually in an inpatient treatment facility. So I mean, foods have been a huge part of my learning journey for a long time. And for me, it was giving me so much more than nutrition, or I was actually seeking so much more than nutrition out of food. I was seeking a best friend, feeling comfort, confidence, all these feelings, uncomfortable feelings I was having, I was trying to stuff with food.
Hmm.
And so I think for me, through lots of therapy, pulling those things apart, like what is it that I'm wanting right now? What is it that I'm seeking? And finding healthier ways to get that and slowing down because so much of this, the way the brain operates, and this, you go pick up that snack or you get that Netflix, it's all quick hits. And so to slow
Hmm.
down and notice what's the urge, and then to ask myself, what's underneath that urge? Because I never have wanted an Oreo cookie because I'm hungry or seeking nutrition. You know, there's something underneath it. Oh, I'm feeling
Yeah.
lonely.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm feeling sad. And so I think just in general, that is more about connecting to ourselves
Hmm.
and our bodies and, not again, not letting the way that our minds operate, which is just that going by the habit, one thing after the other,
Yeah.
slowing down and really asking ourselves what's really going on and being honest with ourselves.
You know, I love that you say that about, when you want an Oreo cookie or, something that you know is not good fuel, it's not because you're hungry. It makes me think of my daughter Caroline, whom most of y'all know, but she's cognitively very challenged. And sometimes we'll ask like, do you want to get an ice cream or do you want a cookie? And she thinks for a minute and she says, I'm not hungry. Like she'll assess. And I'm always like, that's nothing to do with hunger, and that confuses her. Like she's
Interesting.
very like black and white. Like somehow along the way, she heard "don't eat unless you're hungry." But I want to talk a little bit about what we eat,
Hmm.
because I some foods I have learned that if I eat certain foods, then I'm craving the wrong things all day long, and
Uh-huh.
That takes me to this mindset around the ketogenic diet. And so I don't think it's quite as much of a fad right now, but I think it's interesting to share that Caroline went on the ketogenic diet years ago, um, to stop her epilepsy because it's known to help with seizures. It didn't
Mhm.
help her seizures. She was one of the few that it didn't help, but she stayed in ketosis and dropped a ton of weight. She got very thin.
Mhm.
Um, but what makes me sad about it now is I see a lot of folks eating a lot of fat and protein, thinking it's going to help them to lose weight, but they're not fully in ketosis. And if you eat
Mm.
just even the smallest amount of carbs or sugar, it kicks you out of it. So our culture has shifted into eating a lot of fat and protein and hardly any carbs. And then their brain eventually just tells them, this is not what I need. And they cannot overcome the craving to have something that's not fat and protein.
Right.
And one thing that has really helped me to make good choices, and it's not every day, but when I feel really good and healthy and strong, it is to make sure that I'm getting carbs, but not simple carbs.
Mhm.
Simple carbs make us crave sugar, and sugar is highly addictive, as most of us know. So what I mean by that is, breads and white pasta and rice, those things make us want more sugar when they burn off. But
Mhm.
if we choose quinoa, brown rice, whole wheat pasta, um, let's see, lentils have carbs in them, beans have carbs in them. Those things help me to stay feeling really clear and strong and energized, and they dramatically reduce cravings of crummy food. That
Mhm.
and and for me, I don't know about you, but for me, staying away from fried foods really helps. And it's hard to do that in the South because at least where I live, it is everywhere.
Yeah. Well, you know what I love? One of the many things I love about our relationship is like I'll experience something internally, and because I'm so like hyper aware of all this, I'm always like, oh, what's this? And then you'll say something, and I'm like, oh, that's what that is. Because lately I haven't been eating a lot of sugar, but when I do, I'm like, wow, A, I don't feel good, and B, all I want is more, 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 more. And
Hmm.
it's like it's very strange. So then you say things, and I'm like, oh, that's why that's happening. So I do think, and it's not to say like you can't ever have anything, whatever. It's more about being mindful about it because I think it's just we are bombarded every day with so much information, so many sort of sensory touch points that our brains can't really it like take all of it in, but we need to
Hmm.
be mindful about what it is that we're actually letting in and what we're acting on because that's the
Yeah.
like hand to mouth. That's why you shouldn't sit down and watch a TV show and eat or be doing things because we're not mindful of what we're actually doing. So I think
Yes.
it's so important what you're saying is like noticing how does that make me feel when I eat that, Because that also goes to what I said earlier about when I sit down and there's fried food and I'm really craving it. If I can stop for a second and think, that's not really what I'm after. That's not my goal. It's not, I know how I'm going to feel after I eat this. And it's just
Hmm.
enough of a like gap. So
Yeah.
sometimes we can start to
Yeah.
have it.
You made me think of something. I think her name's Ellen Langer. She's like the queen of mindfulness. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's her name. I'll feel terrible if that's not her name, but she has lived in a very present, mindful state for decades, and she's really just the godmother of it. And she talks about eating. She said, "When I eat with gusto." But
Mm.
she said, it's all I do when I eat, unless I'm in a social setting. She said, I'm not watching television. I'm not reading. I'm not, trying to do work or write. She said, I sit down, I prepare my meal, and I just completely enjoy the meal. And there is power in that because that's when we feel satisfied. So if
Right.
you think about eating like that, and for me, again, I just hate to keep, harping on this. You've heard me do it, is whole grains are just king to me because when I'm eating whole grains, I can have 2 bites of chocolate at night. And I don't want any more.
Right.
But if I'm eating a lot of simple carbs, I just want more.
Hmm. It's so
Yeah.
true. Well, I am curious because we've got a lot of folks on here today. Like, what questions are there? If they come up, just raise your hand, and because I'd love to
Or
hear other
tips,
people.
because everybody's got their health journey. And yeah, so questions, and I
Absolutely.
would love tips.
Yeah, yeah. I see Michelle's raised her hand. Yeah, Michelle, what you got?
Hey, I didn't hear you call me.
Yeah, that's okay.
So I I find that to break the cycle of wanting more, I go brush my teeth.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
And that gets whatever's in my mouth um out of there and gets me a fresh start.
Huh. So yeah, it does two things. It interrupts the behavior. So you're not in that
Mhm.
like robotic pattern behavior. This is what I do. This is what I do. And then also you're saying it actually interrupts, whatever's happening in your mouth brain experience.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But also as a European, it's our habit, normal, what people think of as continental breakfast, the rolls and things like that.
Hmm.
Well,
Yum.
that really is how I wake up. I have coffee and toast with jam and butter, and that's to start the day. It's that little, okay, I'm awake now.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's hard not to have that simple carb. It's a heavy rye bread when I can find it,
Hmm.
Mhm.
but it's still, starting the day with a hit of sugar,
Hmm.
with sugar on it.
Right. Right.
Because
Well,
I
and
put
again, I
preserves
think
on
it's
it.
everybody's different, and this is I'm not a nutritionist, not, I only know what I know, and it's also about moderation. I
Mhm,
think that's the one thing is anytime that's why diets and dieting, anytime you go extreme, really on anything, you know,
mhm,
there are consequences to that. And so in moderation, and also because I have gone years without eating sugar, any of that during my more extreme days. And it doesn't often make the cravings go away. It makes them stronger because you're telling yourself you can't have something. So sometimes the moderation
mhm,
of having a little bit, as long as it's not something, depending on how it impacts you, isn't a bad thing.
mhm. But this
Yeah,
would be a huge habit to change because it's a lifelong habit.
that's right. Well, and I hear that it's also connected to your culture, which is, even deeper.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, it
Yeah.
So
is.
I think
Yeah.
that's interesting, and I'm really glad you brought that up because for you it works. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You don't struggle with your weight, so I don't think it's true. It's not true. Okay. I've always, you never know about people until they share. So thank you. But it doesn't seem like that's triggering something for you to want more of that all day long. I could be wrong. Tell us. Do you think that you fight the need to want more toast and jam all day long, or sweets or sugar?
Yeah, I am tempted so much by sugar.
Mm,
And the
mm,
way I manage that is I try not to buy much of it.
Hmm.
I try to shop for, instead of regular crackers, I get almond crackers. Instead of bread, I don't keep it around. I don't, um, okay, so I have some tortilla chips to have with salsa. I don't just have tortilla chips as nachos with lots of cheese on them.
Hmm.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, I cut up cucumber wheels or bell peppers to have with hummus.
Hmm.
So I try to have healthier snacks as an option. And sometimes I'm searching the pantry, searching the pantry, searching the pantry. There's got to be something in here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
Michelle, this
But
might be.
I
I
get
can't see
over
if
it
we
because
have
I don't
other
buy
hands
it.
up.
No, mm-mm. This is
Okay.
Okay,
great.
because I want to ask you this, Michelle, because you would be a great person to give this tip. Um, there, I think sometimes in life we have the energy to make healthy choices, but sometimes due to grief or depression or anxiety, it makes it harder. How do you manage your health when you're feeling down?
Great question.
It's even more important to eat healthy when you're down.
Hmm.
And that's the paradox of it, isn't it? It's really, really hard when just putting anything in your mouth is hard.
Yep.
So sometimes give yourself grace and just eat something that is satisfying, right? Because it's comforting.
Hmm.
Yep.
But you can't do that all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So you just
And
just let it be. sometimes. Just let it be.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you just got to let it be. Sometimes you have to just let it go.
Yeah.
Sometimes, well, okay, so here's an example. My daughter and I have a saying, ice cream and chocolate cure everything.
Mhm.
So whenever she's feeling really, really bad, um, whenever she has something bad happen,
Mhm.
then it's that little pint of ice cream. And it's not the whole thing unless it's something really dramatic, like losing a job. If you lose your job, it's the whole pint of ice cream. And you just get
Oh,
a spoon and you go for it.
oh.
But, when she was at work and she was really hurting with her ladies' monthly, to put it delicately, her boyfriend brought her a Diet Coke and a chocolate bar and just a few little other things of comfort to help her make it through the day.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
So,
you're talking about moderation and then
little
allowing yourself.
treats.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, little treats.
yeah,
But, he didn't buy her the big giant Hershey bar,
yeah,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
He got her a Hershey bar.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's about moderation and being aware,
Hmm.
being aware of, I'm feeling crappy and that's why I'm eating this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
To your point, Catherine, why am I eating this?
yeah. That's great.
And sometimes I'm just running around the house and what's something sweet? What's something sweet?
Yeah, yeah.
But I end up sometimes just with my coffee,
Hmm. Well, that's great. And
and
I love your tip about the brushing
I
of the teeth.
really cut I've really cut back on how much sugar I put in my coffee, but I can't drink coffee without a little sweetening.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah,
just haven't been able to do that.
yeah,
So just a
mm,
little bit of sweetening,
yeah,
and that cuts it sometimes.
yeah. And
But
I
then
think,
I need to remind myself to go back to my good old standby and just go brush my teeth.
yeah, there
I
you
like
go. I
that.
love that one. Thank you, Michelle. And I see Sorrel has his hand up. So, and I know we're getting close to the end. Thank you, Michelle. It's so helpful. I love that. Sorrel, what have you got for us today?
I've got a tip, and I
Ooh,
need to give my
what is
new
that?
friend, Sanjeev Jain, credit for the tip.
Okay.
Uh, I'm not giving it as a tip that will work for everyone, but I want to share the impact of it on me. Uh, Maybe a year or two ago, I had a bad uh, case of sciatica, and I couldn't move, I couldn't exercise, I couldn't do anything. And I made up my mind that, well, if I can't run as hard as I used to or lift as hard as I used to, I might as well resign myself to being a couch potato. So I haven't exercised the way I used to in a long time until he gave me this tip. He says, don't don't try to do too much. Do what you can. And then he shared with me what he does. What he's been doing is walking for at least an hour, walking fast enough to get the heart rate above 120, but not too far above. He said, Sorrel, there's science behind that. When your heart rate is in that range, your body actually burns fat, so you don't have to work hard to stay lean and to stay healthy. So I've been doing that for about 2 weeks. And what I'm noticing is that certain cravings that I used to have, I don't have anymore. So maybe there's a link to walking and curbing cravings. I don't know.
Hmm.
Just wanted to offer.
I want to ask you, I know we're over time, but I just want to ask a quick question about that because I'm really trying to stop my tendency to go way too hard on cardio. And I know I do it. I know it's not good for my heart. And for some strange reason, I keep doing it. How do you know to keep do you have a heart rate monitor or one of
Uh,
those stupid
there,
Apple
there,
watches that
there
I don't
is
want?
there is an app on the Apple Watch which has a heart rate monitor in it called Fitness.
Hmm.
And I swipe it, I click outdoor walk, and I keep looking at it every 2 or 3 minutes to make sure I keep the heart rate in that range. So if I'm
Okay.
going too fast, I slow down. And at first, Tara, I felt like a chump. It's like, what are you doing just walking?
Right?
Right.
It's not in my nature. It's like go hard or go home.
I love
Exactly.
it.
So I guess through that habit, I'm debunking for myself the need to really tear my body up to feel like I'm doing something healthy for myself.
Cool. I know we are over time, so we're going to close
And
this out, but I'm going
Rashida's
to
got her
come
hand
to
up too,
Atlanta.
Tara. Tara,
I want to come to,
you
huh?
can't see this, but Rashida's got her hand up too.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
I
I'm
am
gonna
so
Catherine, I'm
Gra-
gonna let you close us out when she's done since I can't see from the car.
Grand Rising, guys. Sorrel, thank you so much, Tara and Catherine, for the good job. Good job. Even if you like what Catherine said, oh, I'm not nutrition, but I'm going to try to do this one. But Sorrel, I can give you a suggestion. Suffer with the same situation. At least for that hour that you walk, if you can put in 10 minutes into that hour of walking backward, you will did yourself a big justice. And I'm not asking you, I'm telling you by experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rashida.
Cool.
Thank you, everybody. This has been so fun for us to be on Wednesday today. And thanks to Chase for allowing us to step in and have this time with you all. And we're going to close out today. And I'm going to start, we normally start with love, but I want to start with move that body because we've been talking about fitness today and health. So get out there and move that body, even if it's just for a walk. And give of your time and your resources and love with your whole heart. Laugh, throw that head back and laugh, even at your own jokes. And eat more plants. That will also help you curb those cravings. Sleep, get your rest, and stress less. Relax more. It's not that serious. It's just life. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on the Daily Huddle.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.